Here's a live look outside at the bean. People enjoying the warmer temperatures out there. They're not going to last, though, according to Mike.
Monday's going to be cold. Highs in the 30s. It'll be a shock to the system, I think.
Yeah, bundle up to say the least, but we've got a few days to get ready for it. 60s today?
60s today, and I think 60s
feel
tomorrow.
like 80s for a while. See you back here tomorrow.
All right.
Chicago Now starts.
a.m. Happy Tuesday morning. Look who we have here.
Hello.
TV's Natalie Baumke.
Yeah, filling in for Caitlin today.
Can we admire her footwear?
Oh, thanks, Anthony.
Just for a second, please.
The thing is, I don't feel great these days. I'm going to be real honest, okay? People see women on TV who are pregnant. They think that woman is amazing. I don't feel that way.
But you are amazing. You're showing up to work every day.
Yeah, it's hard to find things that fit. And so when I can wear something that makes me feel special, by golly, I'm going to do it.
Well, one of the first things I said to you this morning when you walked in was, I love the whole ensemble today.
Thank you.
And you were saying how this particular dress is convenient during this stage in your life, right?
Well, I ordered a bunch of these in different colors on Amazon. They were so inexpensive. And they're soft, and they will grow with me.
Yes, they grow. She says it's a stretchy fabric, so it'll grow right along with her.
That's right. Hopefully not too much bigger, though.
Yeah. It's okay.
We don't want to break any world records over here.
It's okay if it comes to that.
All right.
All right, we got some fun stuff to talk about with you. Now, by the way, Caitlin's out. She had a little health issue. Caitlin, if you're watching from Northwest Indiana, thoughts and prayers. It's not serious. I'm joking because it's not too serious. I think she'll be back very soon. We got some fun stuff to get to during this hour. First of all, the local art scene is getting a big boost. There is a grant that we're going to be talking about from a nonprofit organization called 3 Arts, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's actually going to 100 different artists around Chicago.
It's got to be hard to make it as an artist. Oftentimes when we have them in, I'm like, is this your only source of income? Like, because I know it's your passion and that's what you want to do and you should be able to do it, but it's got to be hard.
And this will help a lot of those so-called starving artists who, because you're right, unless you really break through and make it into prestigious galleries and stuff, I can't imagine trying to make ends meet. Okay, the other thing, I'm excited about this too, Nat, is uncomfortable conversations, conflict resolution. We're going to be speaking with a guy who has invented a game. And reading, I don't know if did you do any background into this game? Because the process, basically, there's 2 players, and you choose a topic that you disagree on. That's like the starting point. And then one of the rules, Nat, is that you can talk about the topic with your opponent, but not the person. Okay? So it's designed to make sure that any argument that ensues is not personal. It literally just has to do with the topic
Here's
at hand.
the thing. I wish more people were comfortable doing this, because this day and age, we have groups of people that are not speaking, you know? And it's like, I wish we had more people like, I'm curious what your point of view is. And I'm not going to judge you. I just want to hear it, you know?
I completely agree.
I'm curious to see how many people are willing to play the game, I guess.
And wouldn't it be great if we could get like big groups to play it too and find that common ground? Because you're right, we have people that like aren't even attempting to find common ground these days.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like debate club, but for adults.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to be speaking with the guy who invented this strategy. I actually think it could go beyond a game and inform how we approach our personal relationships. But before all that, the Great Lakes has had some pretty famous and significant shipwrecks over the centuries, and we are going to be speaking with someone who runs a YouTube channel completely devoted to Great Lakes shipwrecks. First of all, Nat, before we go out to Mike, who's joining us via Zoom, have you ever seen or heard about any shipwrecks on like Lake Michigan or any of the Great Lakes by chance?
We're going to be addressing the Edmund Fitzgerald, and I think to me that's the one that I know the most about, or I hear the most about, as well as the one on the Chicago River.
Right.
But I'm still learning things, though.
Yeah, I actually didn't know. I had to do a little refresher on the Edmund Fitzgerald, but Maggie and I, we were in Door County. This is when we first started dating, actually. This is before we were even engaged. We went up to a place called Washington Island. And this homeowner on Washington Island, kind enough to be like, oh, if you want to swim off our beach, you can. And just if you just, because everyone's so nice up there. It's like they welcome you as a neighbor, even though we're just visiting. And he's like, if you do, throw some goggles on. There's a shipwreck right off our dock.
Wow.
And so I was in Washington.
Cool.
It was so cool. I just threw a pair of goggles on.
Cool, yeah.
Exactly. You could, I don't think anyone died in this one. I can't remember the name of it, but it was right off of the beach in Washington Island. And it was so cool because you could kind of lay there in the water looking straight down and see this old shipwreck. Isn't that wild?
It is wild.
Yeah.
Yes. And well, and it's still like wrapping your head around the fact that like the Great Lakes are so huge. They create their own weather patterns. This particular ship went down in 35 feet waves. I can't even picture.
Can you imagine that? This is on Lake Superior. Why don't we bring in Mike? Mike.
Hey.
Mike, you only go
How
by
are you
one
this
name.
morning?
Yeah, we only have you in as Mike.
Right, you're like sharing.
Do you want to share your
Yeah,
last
you
name,
know,
or you just
so
shipwreck Mike?
my name is Vibe with Mike. That's the name of the YouTube channel, so that's what everybody calls me.
Oh, wait, hey, what's
the
the name of the channel? I'm sorry?
It is called Vibe with Mike on YouTube.
Vibe with Mike. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us here on Chicago Now. I understand we are just days away from the 50th anniversary. Is this the biggest shipwreck that's ever happened on the Great Lakes?
You know, I would say as far as just visibility and how far that story has went, I would say yes. I mean, if anybody thinks about a shipwreck on the Great Lakes, Edmund Fitzgerald is really what comes up in the maritime community. And there was a famous song that was composed many years ago by Gordon Lightfoot that was called The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which was a Billboard hit. And I think if people don't know that song, they can find that and they'll probably recognize the tone. But as far as the sheer impact and what it did for the industry, I would absolutely say it is the most well-recognized shipwreck on the Great Lakes for sure.
So we are marking, Mike, 50 years since it happened on November 10th. Back in the 70s, you know, when I think of shipwrecks, I think of like the old days.
Me too.
Not the decade that Anthony Ponce was born. That's not what I think of. But that is the case. So tell us a few highlights of this ship. Like, what was it carrying and what happened?
Yeah, so I'll take you back. So the history of the ship, it was built in 1958, and it was managed by the Ogilvy Norton Corporation. And at the time that it was built, 729 feet in length. I mean, now we have 1,000-footers that are out there. But at that time, that was really the largest ship, or one of the largest ships out there. And it was really a flagship for that corporation. And its real mission was to haul taconite. And I got this for the viewers at home there in the Chicagoland. This little pellet right here, this is taconite. Oh. And really what this is a component that is used to make steel. So this would bring these heavy loads of taconites, taconite to steel mills to actually form steel. And with that ship, there was 26,000 tons of it that was on board when it did depart Superior.
So what happened there? I understand there was a storm of some kind. You know, doing a quick, Google search, it said 35-foot waves were on Lake Superior at the time. What is your understanding of what happened here?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm not an expert. There's a lot of theories, so I just want to start there because, no one really knows. But the facts that we do know is that when that ship took off on November 9th in the afternoon from Superior, Wisconsin, there were indications that there would be a storm, but not as significant as it played out over the course of 24 hours. As it progressed, that storm got to a point the next day where there was hurricane force winds. Approximately 85 miles per hour is what was, put out there as far as some of these different meteorologists have verified that. As well as the waves, there have been some different ideas of how high those waves have been. Some say 25 feet. It could be above that as well. But we're talking about a significant storm. And, the folks there in the Chicagoland area, being on Lake Michigan there, some of these storms can really creep up and they can be very powerful. Now, let's take a step back as far as weather prediction. At that time, you didn't have an app that you could go onto right away and know what's going on. So it was not as comprehensive as we have today. But again, it was just an unbelievable storm. And, you know, it's just all of the different accounts and the different information that's out there. It was pretty unbelievable. There was one specific instance where there was a ship that was following it called the Arthur M. Anderson that was about 10 miles behind, that was there during that storm, and they radioed the captain on the Fitzgerald, McSorley, and they wanted to request, how's things going? Is everything good? And Captain McSorley on the Fitzgerald said, we are holding our own. And, you know, that was, you know, really what people think about that final statement there is just when you think about the Fitzgerald, it's 29 men that started their journey out on that lake doing their job, and Mother Nature, you know, they encountered that. And that's the thing, when I think of the Fitzgerald, I do think of those crew members, that shipwreck, but all the mariners that are out there, even now, they go out onto the water, and, you know, there is risk involved with that. But, you know, with this 50th anniversary, preserving the memories of those 29 men and that ship is something that's very special and important to a lot of us.
Mike, was that the last known communication then before it sank, was we're holding our own?
Yeah, you know, a great question. That is the very last communication. Bernie Cooper was the captain on the Anderson, and that was the radio transmission from McSorley and the Fitzgerald. We are holding our own. And in a matter of minutes, the ship that was on radar on the Anderson was no longer on the radar. And at that point, as we all know, the ship was lost. But they really didn't know for sure, because at that time, you know, this is a huge ship. Thinking of that going down was very hard to believe. So again, we don't know exactly what happened, but if you combine the weather situation and, you know, the weight of all of that taconite, again, it's just, I don't want to lead to speculation, but there was a lot of different, you know, situations there that contributed to that unfortunate loss.
We are 6 days away from the 50th anniversary of the shipwreck itself. We're going to take one quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to Mike more about how the sinking of the ship led to some major changes in the maritime industry, not just here in Chicago, but across the Great Lakes. We'll be right back with more with Mike after this.
Shipwrecks on the Great Lakes. We're talking about it with Mike, who runs a YouTube channel dedicated to this topic. And Mike, how did this sinking change the maritime industry in Chicago and all of the Great Lakes? Because we know so many things, like the Iroquois Theater fire, and that here in Chicago, and that changed kind of fire standards for other theaters. This also changed standards for ships.
It absolutely did. Great question. What happened is, before this point, I mean, there was not necessarily a loose approach, but more of, you know, how much weight from a cargo standpoint can we haul? And that's what the ships were doing. So a lot of the captains would say, hey, I brought this many tons. The other one would say, I brought this many tons. After this unfortunate tragedy with the sinking of the Fitz, it really changed the industry to a compliance first, a risk mitigation first type of mentality. So if there is any silver lining to this, I mean, we will never forget the memory of those 29 men, but the industry did change for the better when it came to protecting the sailors and just making sure that this was all about safety. So I think there was a lot of preventative measures that were put in place to make sure that we can avoid a tragedy like the Fitzgerald.
Get us updated then. So 1975, like Natalie mentioned, when we think of shipwrecks, we think of Moby Dick or something like that, you know, or the Titanic, going way, way, way back. right? What's the situation been like on the Great Lakes in the last 50 years since this happened? Have there been major shipwrecks? I know we report all the time about individual boaters that go missing and individual drownings, but has there been mass events around the Great Lakes in the years since?
No, not since then. I mean, there have been incidents where there might have been collisions or ships that ran aground, but nothing that gets to the point of the Fitzgerald. So that, again, is going back to the point of really creating a risk mitigation first mentality in the industry to really prevent that from happening. Now, in all of the Great Lakes, including Lake Michigan there, I mean, there are many ships that have been lost. And I think that is really attributed to not only the risk, scenarios back then, but the prediction of weather and the volatility of some of these waves and wind that can come up out of nowhere where you might think it's a sunny day. I mean, the boaters there, they're in Chicago, probably realize when you go out there on the lake and you might be enjoying it, the wind, the waves can really change fast. Now imagine being out there on one of the Great Lakes when the wind is pushing at 50, 60, 70 miles per hour, and that can be really significant. And another thing that's interesting is I've heard many experts say that when you think of the ocean compared to the Great Lakes when it comes to the waves and the type of weather, a lot of ocean-going vessel captains have said it's a way worse, harsher conditions on the Great Lakes for this reason.
Wow.
When you look at those huge swells in the ocean, it takes time to develop and they can read the wave and it's a slower approach.
Oh.
The waves on the Great Lakes hit quicker with more intensity. So instead of waiting 10 seconds, 15 seconds for one wave on the ocean, you're every 4 seconds, you're getting pounded with a wave on one of the Great Lakes.
Wow.
And that's what can make it very difficult for a captain or a crew that is not used to those type of conditions.
Is Lake Superior the most treacherous of all the Great Lakes?
It does have the most shipwrecks, absolutely. And I think that's just because of the size. And if you think about it, if you're in the middle of Lake Superior, all the Great Lakes are significant, but there's just something about Lake Superior when it comes to, the gales of November, they call it, where you have those huge waves, the huge wind that can really make it treacherous out there for, a crew.
They were, how far offshore that this happened? And because we keep seeing these pictures of what looked like a lifeboat from the Fitzgerald there. I'm just curious kind of like why those lifeboats weren't deployed, and again, how far offshore are we talking about here, Mike?
Yeah, so if people go to a map and look at Whitefish Point in Michigan, that's where they have the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum at this point. It's 17 miles from that point. Oh. And the lifeboat that you're seeing on screen there, that is from the Valley Camp Museum in Michigan, in Sault Ste. Marie. And what happened is just, again, you have these conditions that are developing. It just happened so fast. Remember, this crew has been, and the captain, they have been in storms very significant. So this captain is a very seasoned person, was on the edge of retirement. So he has battled these storms before. So there just really wasn't the worry that the ship would not make it. And when all of these factors came into place with the storm and maybe the heavy load and some of these other factors, they just did not believe that ship would go down. So even though they had the lifeboats and they did have a lot of the safety type of equipment on the vessel, I think that they didn't know that it was going to go down. And it surprised everybody when the news did hit the next day in 1975. People were shocked. They were surprised. They couldn't believe it. And, it's something that, again, to this day, 50 years later, is something that is really significant and impactful to not only people in the maritime community, but people around the world. I mean, even for me on my YouTube channel, I have people that reach out to me from Japan, from Australia, from places in South America, that this story does resonate with them. And I think it starts maybe with the song from Gordon Lightfoot, or people that are historians, or someone that just loves ships. This is something that really can catch the attention of someone, and they want to look more into it.
And if people are interested, Mike, in learning more about this, is there a specific book that you recommend? Obviously, your YouTube channel would be a great place to go, but what else?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of museums out there. I would say definitely the Valley Camp Museum in Michigan. the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum, also at Whitefish Point in Michigan. You also have tributes here in Duluth as well, and a lot of other places. And they're in the Chicagoland area. You have a Chicago Maritime Museum, and this Saturday they are hosting an event to pay tribute to the Fitzgerald. And for those there in the Chicago area, it's in the Bridgeport neighborhood. So it should be something to look into, and to definitely go there and pay respects to not only those 29 men, but just to the mariners that are out there that really dedicate their lives in this industry.
That's a great idea. Chicago Maritime Museum right here. All right, Mike, with Vibe with Mike, thank you so much for the history lesson on the brink of this anniversary. We appreciate your time. That's fascinating, sir. Thank you,
Mike.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks for having me.
All right, you too. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, the Chicago-based nonprofit 3 Arts is committing over $1 million to support over 100 local artists who are navigating tough times right now, a shifting funding landscape. We're going to be joined in studio by Kat Tager. She is executive director of 3 Arts, and she will be joining Natalie and me when we come back after this. Corporate.
Fun opportunity for you to not only help out artists in the community, but just have a great time too. Chicago-based nonprofit 3 Arts is granting over $1 million to more than 100 local artists in need. And joining us here is Kat Tager, the executive director of 3 Arts. What a great opportunity for these folks.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're going to be giving $1 million to over 100 artists in the city of Chicago and 2 down in downstate Illinois in Carbondale. And that will be on Monday, November 10th.
How did you pull these funds together? Tell us a little bit about 3 Arts for those unfamiliar with the organization.
Sure. So 3 Arts is a nonprofit organization based here in Chicago that supports artists in the performing, teaching, and visual arts here in Chicago. Since 2007, we have been providing grants and doing artist residency and other programs that we do to support artists here in Chicago.
Where can people see these artists and their works?
Everywhere. If you live in Chicago, you will not miss any of our artists. We have artists that are working here in schools, in studios, in theaters. You'll see them everywhere. Yeah.
To the funding now. This is a lot of money. Okay, and it's going to be distributed to a lot of deserving folks. How do you guys pull together your funds? Like, is it all private? Do you have fundraisers? Is it donation based? Tell me about that.
I mean, it's a group effort. We are a nonprofit organization, so we do raise funds to help support these artists. We work together with a lot of organizations here in Chicago, and we also put some of our own resources into the game to make sure that we can make this happen. This is the first year that we've done, this is the second time actually we've done this. The first time we did this was during the pandemic, when we felt like artists really needed a moment really needed folks to step in, lean in to help. And so our board actually this year decided that we would lean in a little bit harder and use a little bit more of our own resources to help fund this.
You know, there are so many great causes to give to. I know you are so passionate about the arts, so explain to people who may not get it out there why this is so important for the city of Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, artists artists are really doing a lot of unseen and unpaid work here in Chicago. And they are the people who connect our neighborhoods together. They are creating, they're preserving our culture. They're doing a lot of things that don't get seen a lot. And so it's really important to support these artists, because when you support a thriving artist community makes a thriving, city, state, country. It has ripple effects that make waves far further than where you are.
These are tough economic times.
Yeah.
Everything is more expensive. We've been talking about these tariffs. In terms of supplies, okay, whether you are a performing artist or a visual artist, I'm guessing that costs are up right now. Will you tell us a little bit about the impact of the higher prices right now?
Sure. So part of the $1 million that we're giving this year is an increase in emergency funding that we're providing directly to artists. We are deploying $150,000 in emergency funding, and we're seeing that, it's everything from the grocery store to the cost of supplies to rent to basic household, basic life needs are what we're hearing from artists. The precarity is kind of never ending at this point. And so we really felt like part of the need was also to meet artists, not just for emergency needs, but also for opportunities that they have. We also give emergency fundings for folks who have a great opportunity, but maybe can't afford to get their art to the Venice Biennale or something like that. We'll help them get that there too. So it doesn't have to be like a tragic story. It can also be a hopeful story.
Yes, and we're gonna zero in on some of those hopeful stories. We're gonna take a quick break. And then we're going to have Kat run us through some of the individuals that may stand to benefit from some of these grants when we come back here on Chicago Now. Stay with us.
Take a
Executive Director of 3 Arts, a nonprofit organization here in Chicago that is really helping out artists. And we're just talking about this $1 million giveaway for local artists to really help them thrive and continue to make our city a better place. So, Kat, tell me about the stories. Tell us about the stories that you hear from these artists to really bring it home for people.
Yeah, so next week we're going to be giving out 17 $30,000 unrestricted grants. So it doesn't matter what they do with it. It's unrestricted because we believe that artists need to be trusted to do the work that they need to do in the communities. And we have a lot of artists that are doing work in their communities here in Chicago and in downstate Illinois. Wendy Clenard is a flamenco dancer who uses dance and movement to work with the justice. That's all right. She uses music and dance she uses flamenco dance to work with folks who have been incarcerated. Oh, okay. Her project is really about restorative community art. We've got Victoria Boateng, who runs the Victoria Boateng Djembe Academy. She is a Black disabled drummer who teaches drumming, African drumming, to artists to people with disabilities. So we've got people doing really deep work in their communities there, and it's not just here in Chicago. In downstate Illinois, we have an award that's going to Maxwell Centeni, and he runs an all-volunteer-run music studio that supports the music community in Carbondale, Illinois.
That's really, really cool. So you mentioned there were 17 that are getting unrestricted grants.
Yeah.
So how were these individuals chosen? Tell us a little bit about the application process.
Yeah, it's really robust. We have an anonymous pool of nominators here in Chicago and in downstate Illinois, and they are all across the city, all across the disciplines that we do, which is music, dance, theater, visual art, and teaching art.
Okay.
And so we have nominators that nominate individuals, those individuals that are invited to apply for the 3 Arts Award. And then there's a jury panel, a national jury panel that meets with to select the awardees, to review the applications and to select the awardees. And it changes every year.
If there are artists out there that want to connect with you, how can they do that?
They can go to our website, 3arts.org. We have lots of resources for artists here and everywhere in the country.
I don't know if how this question is going to come off, but you know, I know a lot of artists who may be struggling right now. Is there any way for them to like angle to get nominated? I know you said there's this anonymous committee that does it, but is there any way that you would advise kind of getting your name out there, getting your work out there? Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of our artists are doing such deep work in the community, and I would say artists just shouldn't give up. They should keep going, because artists are going to be the people who see us through these hard times. Honestly, they have the creativity that we need, or that people need, or that society needs, to be able to imagine something different, to be able to build something different. When things feel oppressive, when things feel static, it's artists that can come up with new ways to do things. It's really creative people that we need. So keep doing it, and you'll get recognized, because the hard work, because there's folks like us that are looking for you.
How about this event? Let's do a little preview. It's happening right down the street. We can see the Harris Theater from there.
Hello,
we look
Harris
straight
Theater.
south here on this little street right here. What is happening? How's the event going to be structured when you unveil some of these awards?
It's going to be so much fun. It is it's a party, but it is a big big love letter to the city of Chicago. We will be having, not only will we be celebrating these 17 $30,000 award recipients, but we also have 40 Make-A-Wave award recipients that will be receiving $2,000, and 6 next level award recipients that will be receiving $50,000.
Wow.
So we're going to be celebrating 63 artists on Monday, and then in addition to that, there'll be a performance by the Chicago Immigrant Orchestra, which is a 12-person orchestra made up of immigrants that all live here in Chicago. They'll be performing some music. We will have music from Decomposed, which is an all-black string quartet. And then we have a really cool aerial act that's going to open the show with Michelle Rodriguez and Jacinda Radcliffe. They're all past 3 Arts Award recipients that will be performing.
The alums.
Yeah.
The alums are coming together for a little performance.
Well, at this point, we have like 500 of them.
That's so great. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Are there any tickets available for folks who want to go?
There are tickets available.
Okay.
You can purchase them through the Harris Theater website or through ours. You'll be able to get there in both places. But yes, tickets will be available probably up until the event starts.
I also want to know if people are looking for tangible artwork for their homes, for their businesses. How can they connect with these artists that you guys support?
One of the great things about our website is that every artist that we support has their own website, own page on our website, which includes so much information about each individual artist, but also links out to where their page is, or how you can reach out to them. And so we really hope that our website serves to be sort of an aggregator for folks who are wanting to learn more about Chicago artists.
Okay, so it's the website 3arts.org. Okay,
I love number 3. Number 3.
Makes it easy. 3arts.org. Kat Tager, thank you so much for being
Thank you
in
so
studio.
much.
Really appreciate understanding you yourself have a little performance to get to right now. So we wish you, like, she's a musician. Yeah. Yes, good luck with that. Break a leg.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, conflict resolution via a game. We have a professor of psychology joining us. He is from Northwestern University. He has invented this game called Point Taken, which is designed to promote calmer conversations for difficult topics. Natalie and I have had our moments over the years, so we're going to have to
You are a great partner and friend now. You are. Anthony, both of us are good listeners.
Yes, that's right. It works out. It works out. So we're going to be catching up with Stephen when we come back right after this. Welcome back. I guess we're back on. Hi.
Hey, Steven. You got your best angle.
We're doing
I'm joking. We're
real time here.
You are fine.
Okay, the game is called Point Taken. And we are joined by the inventor of it. He is a professor of psychology at Northwestern University, Stephen Franconeri. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Okay, so why don't we just kind of get oriented here. What inspired you to create this here?
The game was inspired by the need to take anger out of disagreements. I heard that you've had disagreements before, but you've handled it well. So we want to extrapolate the skills that you two have to the rest of the world.
Oh, great.
I think you two would both agree that disagreements are important, right?
Yes.
We want to take anger out of them because we want to have them, right? We wouldn't want to be in a world where we all agree. We want to be able to learn and grow together, but we also need to do that in a calm and clear way. And I would think that folks watching at home know that they probably all have somebody in their lives, like an aunt or a nephew or a neighbor, a husband perhaps,
Yes.
that they just can't talk about certain issues with.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing over and over again, I'm sick of the division, and we need to be able to have better disagreements. So there are ways to do that. The good news is that there are rules for having better disagreements. People study them. Mediators, people that do conflict resolution, negotiators.
Right.
And what we did is we baked that all into a game. If I were to sum up the rules of the game in a sentence, I would say, when you've got a disagreement and it's getting angry and you want to calm it down, stop, collaborate, and then listen.
There we go. Vanilla Ice.
There we go. I thought it was Socrates.
The words to live by.
Yeah.
He's back 30
the
years later.
Bible.
Do you want to take us through? I don't know if we could do an example or something, but you've got these visuals here. I don't know if our viewers can see this stuff, but you've got kind of a game board here.
We do.
And we've got some cards here. We've got some thumbs up and some
eyeballs.
Some other eyeballs and the thing. But how have you structured this whole thing?
We do. So we want people to collaborate and listen to each other, and the game is structured to do that. So for collaboration, what we want to do is not get into a competitive mode. We don't want to be on different teams. We don't want to get our swords out, because then we get angry and we don't actually listen to each other.
Sure.
So in the game, what we're going to do is we're going to collaborate. We're going to get on the same team, in a sense, to not try to persuade each other, but to try to find out why we disagree.
Okay.
If we're competing, if Anthony and I have a disagreement, I have a metaphor in my head where there's a string between us with a knot in the middle. And if we're both pulling on that string to get rid of the knot, it's just going to get tighter. So we both have to relax and then collaborate on discovering why there's a knot in the middle.
Okay.
And the game does that by putting you on the same team, and you're going to be laying out your reasoning. Pro and con for some topic, and we're going to be collaborating on finding out why we disagree on a topic. So for this one, let's say Anthony and I disagree on forgiving student loans. I don't know, do you want to be pro or con?
I'll be pro.
You'll be pro. You want to forgive those loans. Great.
Yeah,
I'll be con. And if you were to say, let's forgive them because millions are hurting financially, and I might say, yeah, but it's not fair to those other taxpayers that have to pay for that. I can't believe you're being so naive. So I'm breaking a couple rules right now,
because you're getting a personal dig in there.
Getting a personal dig. And
so break down what's wrong with that then, the personal
so two things. We're not collaborating, we're competing. I've got my sword out. And the second thing is I'm not actually listening to you. I'm not actually hearing you and taking a moment to say, you know, Anthony, you're right. I do hear that millions are hurting financially. And tell me more about that. Does that affect you? What other reasons do you have? Imagine that I actually took 5 minutes, just 5 minutes to listen to you.
And I could say, hey, I've got a nephew that he's got $25K in student loan debt. He just lost his job, so it's affecting his mental health right now. He's not doing well.
Exactly, exactly. And imagine I took 5-10 minutes to do that, and I said, so Anthony, what I heard over the last 5-10 minutes was this, and this, and this. Did I get that right? How would you feel if I did that?
I would like that, yeah. Like if you checked in and kind of validate, you showed me that you listened. Showed me that you listened to what I said, yeah.
And the game tries to simulate that. That's, of course, very hard to do because I'm getting angry at everything I'm hearing, and it's very difficult to do that. It takes a lot of training and inhibition. But the game helps you do that by laying things out on a calm table with a game table where we're collaborating. And we're forced to listen to each other because every time you lay down a reason, I have to carefully read it and stroke my chin and get out a pen and write a careful response to your reasoning. And so I might lay down a tile like this, where I now give a rebuttal to your reasoning, but we're taking our time, we're keeping things calm, and we're actually listening to each other.
I feel like this goes against human biology. We are fight or flight. Okay? We're either going to fight tooth and nail, or we're just going to leave the situation with our own beliefs, and we're not going to get involved. How difficult do you think it is for human beings? Now I'm asking you a deeper question. Human beings to have a reasonable discussion like this, because this does seem to be the sticking point in our country right now.
I completely agree. I think fight or flight is a great way to put it. When I get into an angry disagreement, I either want to get into competitive mode or I want to shut down and I want to run away. I'm conflict averse myself and I hate getting into angry disagreements. But so it takes a lot of emotional strength to be able to take a moment, soak up that anger, and stop, and then get back into that collaboration mode and actually ask the other person their opinion and summarize their opinion and show them that you're willing to be heard and you're willing to collaborate with them.
Let me ask you this. I'm kind of I know we're focused on the game, but I want advice for our viewers. If you're in a situation where oftentimes you're not asking someone their point of view, they are giving it to you. And let's say you don't agree with that point of view. What's the best way to approach that situation?
I'd say it's the same strategy as long as they are there in good faith. And they are there to actually find common ground with you and actually collaborate with you, then it's the same strategy. Model how you'd want to be treated. It's just the golden rule again. Treat them like that for 10 minutes. And if they don't return the favor and they don't listen to you and they don't take a moment to find that common ground, then maybe their motives aren't set up in a way where you're going to have a productive discussion in the end.
This is Stephen Franco-Neri. If you're just joining us, he is a professor of psychology at Northwestern University, and he's come up with this roadmap. It's a game to help us promote calmer conversations, and we're going to speak with him more about how this can apply to our everyday lives when we come back after this very short break.
Here with Northwestern psychology professor, Northwestern University, Stephen, and we're talking about this game he created on how to better debate topics and really listen and collaborate. And so I was just asking you during the commercial break, is this, if people are interested at home, is this something you can pick up at a store? How do people get their hands on it?
The good news is that it's free for everyone. You can just go to pointtaken.social, and there is a printable PDF that you can download. You print it out, you get a pair of scissors, you cut it out, maybe cut it out with that person who you're going to have take a little time to assemble together, bonding, or there's an online version where you can immediately play clickably on the web.
Oh, clickably.
Yeah, so
that's great. What kinds of topics are you seeing this roadmap used for?
People tend to start with an easy topic. The most popular is the ever famous, is a hot dog a sandwich? People love to do that one. Is astrology something to be taken seriously? Those are other easy ones. And then people move on to more complex topics. Cryptocurrency, pro or con. Health insurance, should it be mandatory? Unions, pro or con, etc. And then once they learn to trust this system, on their second game, typically, they're able to take on some of the tougher topics that challenge folks in the U.S. today. Things like trans athletes, things like immigration. They're able to have clear and calm conversations about topics that, if I were just discussing it verbally with someone, I would feel that tightness in my chest, and I would worry that it would get emotional.
Have you heard about any takeaways? Because it'd be interesting to, for example, you know, maybe the third rail here would be the abortion issue, right? I mean, this is one of those issues where I don't think I've ever seen anyone change their mind over the course of a single conversation. Maybe it's something that you change your perspective on over decades and decades. But have you learned about any, you know, with a Venn diagram, any interesting overlaps that people have found on specific topics via this game that come to mind? Absolutely. So taking this forgiving student loans topic as an example, folks that are typically for the forgiveness will, in this case, they will be concerned about the economics of the person who's being forgiven, and the other person on the other side is just bothered by the fairness of it. They're actually okay with forgiving loans in general. By the end of the game, they recognize that, well, you know, kindergarten's free, middle school's free, high school's free. Why isn't community college free? I don't know. Let's have a nuanced discussion about what level should be free. But what they were really concerned about was some people paid them back already. And that's not fair to them. And why did we give a loan in the first place if we were just going to forgive it? So you can find that common ground that people tend to have the same values. They tend to have the same beliefs. There's just a sticking point in the middle. And the nice part about this game is that it makes you lay out your reasons, and you find out almost every time that you 75% agree with the other person.
Wow.
Yeah, it may just come down to kind of your individual background and what you deem fair versus someone else. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a fight over, hey, I'm trying to convince you to get on my side. It's more just, hey, I understand where you're coming from. You understand better where I'm coming from. And then maybe we let that marinate for a while, and it kind of softens your hard edges as you approach the topic down the road. So I find now could a we keep alluding to this, Natalie and I, but could like a married couple use this for any conflict resolution, like within the household, for example? Absolutely. We run this on dishwasher protocol, thermostat wars.
Oh yeah, I know that's from Anthony's house. Picking up socks off the floor.
Exactly.
Just always tend to be there.
A lot of these techniques are actually similar to what you'll get if you do relationship therapy. If you're in a couple and you go to a therapist to work out some of your issues or just learn to be better humans to each other, a lot of the topics that we just talked about are going to be what those folks are going to do. Go ahead. And in fact, we ran an event for students in the singles club to see whether they would be good paired up with relationships with each other. And they would ask each other questions like, should you take time out for your partner, even though you're exhausted? Or should you have your partner's passcode to their phone, to their computer, etc.? And they got to know each other quickly by having a collaboration on their disagreements.
I'm actually wondering, you know, a lot of people like to stereotype college students these days, and they feel like they are kind of a group that is hard to debate because they're very set in their ways and this is what they believe. And have you found that, or are they pretty malleable in their belief system and willing to listen, being a psychology professor at Northwestern?
I've found that, like any humans, there can be that tightness in the chest for emotional topics, but there is a deep, deep hunger in that community to learn about other perspectives. And it really just helps to have a little bit of this training, whether it's following that rule in verbal discussions or whether it's playing this game, to be able to have those discussions in calm and clear ways.
Wouldn't it be something if the two candidates for a certain race, when they show up for a debate, instead of a classical debate, they did this exercise, and everyone would come away with, okay, these two candidates disagree on all these things, but look, they agree on 75% of that. You know what I mean? It would be just like an interesting thought exercise to do it that way. Hey, what the challenge would be, what do we actually agree on?
Yes.
You know, wouldn't that be like an interesting kind of flipping
right now
of the
you
script?
get talking points and essentially how bad the other person is, but you don't really hear what their point of view is.
Exactly. Wouldn't that'd be kind of a interesting little thought exercise. Okay, once again, Stephen, if people want to find this game for themselves, again, it's called Point Taken. I really liked it. Maybe it should be a game show or a debate format. I really think there's legs to this. Where do they find it? Where can they go?
They find it at pointtaken.social, and again, it's free for download or online play.
Okay, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks, we appreciate it, from Northwestern University. All right, we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, there's some big political news. We're going to hit on some of our trending topics on a Tuesday morning when we come back right after this.
Fox. Turn it over to Tia and Gabby. And the first one is breaking news overnight. Former Vice President Dick Cheney has died at the age of 84.
Yes, complications related to pneumonia and cardiovascular disease. You know, I remember over the course of his career and then kind of after he left office as VP, hearing about some of the health issues that he had. He actually survived 5 heart attacks.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and he actually underwent a heart transplant as well. But anyone of a certain age will remember this. The political career spanned decades and decades. He was a congressman out of Wyoming. He served as Secretary of Defense under the first George Bush, and then obviously he was VP under George W. Bush.
Chief of Staff when he was only 34 years old. Can you even imagine? White House
I'm
Chief
47.
Of Staff.
I'm like 19, going on 50, as you know.
Yes.
Brain age, maturity-wise. When we were
in the best way possible.
When Brett Baer, we had a great piece from Brett Baer earlier this morning that we aired on Good Day. When he said that he was Chief of Staff at age 34, I was like,
wow.
Certain people are just outliers.
Yeah, they are.
They're outliers
but
for sure.
But also watching that piece took us through like our childhood into adulthood with him. I mean, because so many things that happened in like the late 80s and the 90s that impacted us as children. I mean, remembering those things, and
completely.
He was serving in a leadership role through all of that.
Yeah, no, I remember one of the kind of commonly held attitudes is like, it was that guy running the country. You know, a lot of people thought it was really Vice President Cheney during the Bush years. That was kind of a common attitude. But watching Brett's piece, absolutely, you know, kind of taking us through 9/11, and we were hearing names we hadn't heard for a while. Donald Rumsfeld, Valerie Plume, yes, that's right. Yeah. Some of those scandals. So yeah, 84 years old, and then of course Condoleezza Rice. That's right. And then, you know, one of the things, you know, for our younger viewers who may not be as familiar with Dick Cheney, broke with the whole MAGA movement, and Trump, you know, he said Trump stole the election, or tried to steal the election rather. And then of course Liz Cheney is probably most known now for kind of breaking with the Republican Party and carrying the torch for the Cheney family. So that was the big story of the morning. We are going to take a quick break, but there is a celestial phenomenon that is going to happen tomorrow night that we're going to tell you all about. You're going to want to look up into the night sky. We'll explain right after this.
Fox Low.
Halloween because it would have been so perfect.
Would have been perfect.
The supermoon, is it coming, Anthony?
It is on the way. Tomorrow night, the moon will look slightly bigger and brighter during the closest supermoon of the year. You know, Mike Kaplan likes to talk, he can talk about this in detail, but the moon's orbit around the Earth, it's not a perfect circle.
Goes in and out.
Yeah, it goes in and out. And so the actual distance between moon and Earth is going to be its closest of the year.
Yeah.
During a full moon. So it's going to look 14% bigger and 30% brighter tomorrow night than the faintest moon of the year.
I was noticing this morning when I was leaving for work, the moon was still up and it looked huge.
Yeah.
It was like kind of like cloud covered a little bit. It was like something out of a spooky movie. But I thought this morning / last night was the supermoon, but it's actually going to be even
tonight,
more
and it was big today.
tonight.
I saw it as well. I want to say on the way in today, if that's possible, but it was behind some clouds, but it looked massive.
Yes.
It really did look massive. So that is something to look forward to tomorrow. Fun fact to impress your friends at the water cool tomorrow, it'll be under 222,000 miles away from Earth, which is just a stone's throw.
That's right.
That's just a stone's throw.
Drive there in a day.
All right, what else we got here?
Okay,
Nat?
so this is exciting. There's new research out there that says listening to music after the age of 70 can cut your risk for dementia. This is just playing music. It comes from a university out of Australia. People over the age of 70 who regularly listen to music are nearly 40% less likely to develop dementia.
That's good to know.
I know you listen to music quite a bit.
All the time.
Yes.
We are very much in Queen / David Bowie mode at Casa Ponce because Theo's really into the piano right now. We've both got sets of parents that are, I believe, are in their late 60s or 70s at this point. Are your folks listening to music? Do you know?
They are not.
Sally,
You know,
Joe?
it's so interesting. I tell the story often how Dad, when I got my first really big job in California, Dad and I drove out to California from Illinois and didn't listen to the radio the entire time.
You guys just
2
talked
days.
the whole time?
We talked, we sat in
that's
silence.
Sat in silence?
But it's interesting the difference between Mom and Dad, because Mom is like really into Rolling Stones and Elvis and the Beatles, and
sweet.
You know, growing up there was a lot of music in the car.
Yeah.
And Dad just not so much.
Not so much. Okay, well this would be a reason to put Mom in charge of the playlist.
Yes.
Put Mom in charge of the playlist because it can have benefits. I want to make sure. My parents listen to a lot of classical music. I've heard that, you know, in young age, you know, when the babies are in the womb, listening to that Mozart can do good things for their cognitive abilities. So, hey, word to the wise, man. Put the music on. That story you just mentioned about the road trip reminds me of this gift we got when we were younger. One of my brother's friends' family for Christmas for our road trip got us this a cassette tape at the time specifically for road trips called Miles and Miles of Fun, and it was basically a sing-along where you pop it in and you can like sing along.
Oh.
That tape ran out by the time we got to Northwest Indiana, and so my dad always called it Mile of Fun. Mile of Fun, thank you. That got us to the Skyway.
Right. My husband went on spring break, and he and his friends drove down to like, I don't know, a place in Florida, okay, when they were in college, and all they had, the only CD was a Shania Twain CD. Oh. And so the whole time it was on heavy
That don't impress me. Exactly,
like,
the whole thing.
College dudes.
Oh, man. Jamming out to Shania Twain.
Anyway.
All right, listen to that music, older folks. All right, it's 10:58. Tia and Gabby are waiting in the wings. They'll be right back after this.
Chicago Now. This is the 11 o'clock hour. I'm Tia Ewing.
I'm Gabriela Primus.
It is so good to be with you here on this Tuesday. I know that sounds cheesy after a while. People are probably like, nobody's that happy. No, we're not always happy, but I think it's pretty fun to see that this week is moving fast. I mean, we were just here, feels like a few hours ago, and now we're back just trucking on through this week. All right, so what do we have coming up today? We have a children's book author who's going to talk about a series that she has. It's a different point of view explored in her genre. What I love about her story is she actually started out as a lifeguard, turned journalist. We got to talk to her about how she made that turn, actually worked on the Oprah Winfrey Show. So a really storied career there. And interestingly enough, her last name is Ewing. And you asked me, are we related? I have no idea. So we're going to find out today. Maybe I'm going to be introduced to my long lost cousin.
Maybe you will be.
Who I have no idea. But I saw her downstairs. We talked. Never came up.
If not, then another great Ewing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe another great Ewing, and I appreciate that compliment. Also, Deloitte has released its Chicago Holiday Retail Surveys for 2025. We'll break down some of the biggest finds there. But first, we got to talk about something that's really interesting.
Well, it's a new Chalkbeat report on dropping attendance rates at CPS schools. We've been kind of keeping an eye on this, right, with all of the unrest that's happening around Chicago. And it's mostly happening with Latino students and families. So we're talking more about it with Rima Ahmed, who wrote the article. Rima, thank you so much for joining us. We know that you've been on the program here a couple of times. So I guess my first question is, what kind of drop are we seeing? Is it that significant? And also, you know, what have these families been saying?
Yeah, so, you know, first of all, we got the details of this story by getting some data from the district about kind of what like individual student attendance looks like. So we analyzed that data and we decided to look at it week by week. So we looked at the first 8 weeks of the school year, partially because the district has been saying that, you know, attendance hasn't really budged when you look at just the whole, the entire time that kids have been in school, which has been about 9 to 10 weeks so far. But what we've been hearing on the ground is that attendance had been dropping off after the federal government announced Operation Midway Blitz, which many people know is the federal government's, you know, kind of new-ish immigration crackdown, essentially, on Chicago. That was announced in early September. And so we wanted to see if there was an attendance difference between those weeks. And we found that there was. Typically, around this time in previous years, attendance usually drops off by 0.5 percentage point, but we saw that that is being driven in part by fears of ICE from families, especially those in immigrant and Latino heavy communities.
Rima, I must ask you, because the last time I think we had you here, we were talking about how parents were pushing for really remote learning to at least have that option because of what was going on in the ground in Chicago. Has there been any update to CPS responding to that, saying, yes, we will offer remote learning, or no, we won't offer it? And then why not if the answer is no?
Yeah, so, you know, folks are still pushing for this. You're also hearing the Chicago Teachers Union has asked the district to reserve some seats or create more seats in its virtual academy, which is typically for kids who are medically fragile, or, you know, the district will use it to expand advanced courses to kids at schools when it's too difficult to, like, bring in a new teacher at that school. But again, the district has, you know, has stuck to its line on this and said that, you know, we're not, you know, at this point, we are not considering remote learning, and they've said that it's too difficult to open up seats in the virtual academy, that's not the academy's purpose, and then especially for kids who are learning English as a new language, who are among, you know, the population of students whose attendance has dropped off this year. They said those kids have special language needs, and the virtual academy can't really accommodate those needs well. They've also said that the Governor Pritzker, needs to declare essentially an emergency to allow for a more broad remote learning option, as the district did during the pandemic. And we know from Pritzker's previous comments, I think a couple weeks ago, that, you know, that seems to be off the table for him right now.
And which neighborhoods are seeing the biggest attendance drop right now?
Yeah, so the district-wide attendance drop-off between the first 4 weeks of school and the second 4 weeks was about 1.25 percentage points, which again is more than double than this time in years past. There are 38 official Chicago community areas that have seen drop-offs even bigger than that. And about 42% of those are communities that are known as immigrant communities, kind of like Albany Park, West Ridge, and then a lot of Latino communities, Pilsen, Little Village, Belmont Cragen. And I should note that a lot of these communities, these kind of heavy immigrant Latino communities, many of them have seen attendance drop-offs in previous years, but almost none have seen the kind of drop-offs that we are seeing right now.
Well, Rima, we know this is an important topic and we want to talk more about it. We do have to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, Rima. To our audience, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Went to go get
back to Chicago Now. We were just discussing a really important topic involving students that attend Chicago public schools. There's been a huge drop off in terms of attendance, specifically for Latino students. And joining us is Rima Amin from Chalkbeat. I know you've been following this, Rima. I know we were just talking about remote learning. Parents have been pushing for it. Right now, it's not on the table. Any idea what resources are available to those students? Maybe students that are not going to school, there's some situation where they can pick up homework, they can pick up packets for the week because parents are afraid of the ICE operations. Have you heard anything about that on the ground?
So I did hear from, one teacher was telling me over at Mather High School, which is in the West Ridge neighborhood on the north side, pretty big high school, 1,600 kids, a teacher there, Eric Vasquez, who's kind of leading the school's efforts to, make sure students who are worried about this feel safe. He's been saying that, him and many of his colleagues have been encouraging all of their colleagues to keep putting homework assignments on Google Classroom or on these online platforms that were, kind of utilized more during the pandemic so that kids have access to their assignments, to notes, things like that online. Of course, also the district apparently has told principals that, if a student fears for their well-being, that can be considered an excused absence. It sounds like, and I'm sure that other schools are doing this, where they're kind of making sure that there's stuff available online. Beyond that, I haven't heard much of other kind of resources that kids who are staying home can take advantage of. I will say that something that I think local media has reported on a lot here, and something that I certainly found in my reporting too, is that there's a lot of communities and schools and community organizations that are just trying to do their best in helping families feel safe and do basic things like feel okay to go grocery shopping or feel okay to, go to school. I talked to one mom who, who herself is Latino and, is feeling okay sending her child to school, but wants to help other parents feel the same and is trying to create what she called a walking train at her son's school, which is basically parents who do feel comfortable taking their kids to school could volunteer to take kids of fearful parents to school, just so that more and more people make it to school. I talked to a principal who said that he's trying to figure out a plan to do something similar. So that was really striking to me, that folks are just trying to find a solution in the absence of a broader solution, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know, we've heard luckily some maybe unofficial situations where people are trying to help each other out, as you mentioned. You know, you also mentioned that Pritzker needs to offer that emergency declaration in order for the schools to do virtual learning. Have you heard, is there any kind of timeline? Does something else need to happen in order for him to actually give that emergency declaration?
No, you know, we haven't heard anything additional on that. I am curious if there will be more of a push from advocates or from unions to have the governor, you know, declare an emergency. He meaning the governor, has certainly been extremely critical of the federal agents' immigration-related enforcement in Chicago. We've seen reports of citizens being detained. We've seen reports of tear gas being deployed in various neighborhoods across the city, which has drawn scrutiny from a federal judge here. So certainly the governor has been critical of that. But as far as remote learning, the other thing that, you know, that we should remember and that viewers will likely recall is that remote learning was really hard on not just parents, but also educators and schools, and most importantly on kids. You know, it was linked to worse academic performance, to worse social emotional health. And so the district also in their statement to us and other reporters said, you know, kind of recalled that and said that, you know, that wasn't the best option. It wasn't the best thing that we could, you know, that it's not the best way to teach kids. And it sounds like they're not even considering it as a last resort right now, in part because of that.
It also sounds like it would probably be difficult too if English is not the first language for students, depending on what the homework assignments are. It could be a whole host of issues. Rima, I must ask you this, because I remember as a student with CPS, you know, the whole goal, you want to learn as much as you can so you can prepare for standardized testing as you enter, like, getting close to the end of the year. Any idea what kind of long-term effects this will have? Because we've seen already some of these districts struggle when it comes to students being able to read at the proper, you know, grade level, understand math. Any idea long-term how students not being in the classroom will impact their education and also their test scores, where they're able to move on to the next grade and be right on par and able to catch up?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's hard to tell right now, especially because we're still at the beginning of the year, and we don't know what this is going to look like as the year goes on. The federal government is fairly unpredictable, and so you know, we have no idea about those factors and how that could impact attendance. We do know that, generally speaking, you know, not truancy, like chronic absenteeism, or, you know, when kids are not going to school regularly, that's generally linked to, you know, lesser academic outcomes, or worse academic outcomes, rather, is like the right language. And you know, I have a colleague who's working on a story about how just the impacts of immigration enforcement in another community has negatively impacted academic outcomes. And there's a study that was done on that. So I think we just kind of have to see, but, you know, I think for the reasons I just mentioned, again, educators and district officials, everybody wants kids to feel safe to go to school.
Well, Rima, thank you so much for joining us. Rima with Chalkbeat. We appreciate you as always, and keep up the good work over there. We'll have you back on when the next big story breaks.
Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Waiting in the Wings, I see it. It's just as colorful, probably
book.
just as playful as your normal children's book, but it has a little bit of a different meaning and a different background, and we'll tell you all about it when we come back.
We'll be right back.
At Shrine.
Chicago Now. This is really an exciting conversation that we're about to have. A local mama author is bringing this much-needed book series. Clotilde Ewing is here in the studio with us this morning. I know Terrence Lee did a story with you, and I'm 100% sure my daughter has one of your books. It would have come out, I think, in 2024, and I think it starts out. Now, listen, this is off memory, so you correct me. But it starts out with the child hating something, and then it's like, no, you shouldn't hate it, and then the child takes it back and says something like, well, maybe I don't like it, is kind of how the book starts out.
Stella keeps the sun up.
Okay.
In that book, Stella and her buddy Roger hate going to bed at night.
Yes,
so
that's the book. That's the book.
Yes, exactly. So Stella keeps the sun up. That was the story that started it all, the first book that came out back in 2022.
Okay, so I'm a little off with the dates. Okay, we got to talk about this. So I was reading your bio, and you started out as a lifeguard, turned journalist. You worked for CBS. You worked for the Oprah Winfrey Show, and then you saw an article. I think it was it?
I saw an article back in 2018, and it was titled, "She Wants More Than MLK at Bedtime." And that article really spoke to me. At the time, I had a 2-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, and I loved reading. So I was really excited to get books for them. And the article was basically about how there's not enough diversity in children's books, and often the diversity that exists is 1 or 2 notes. It's about overcoming struggle, or it's about excellence. And my kids at 4 and 2, they were not thinking about those things. They were thinking about trying to stay up all night. They were thinking about who is the tooth fairy. And so it really struck a chord with me, and I wanted to try and do something.
Great book, by the way. The one that I've read. And now you have a new one that just came out.
Yes. So the first book came out in 2022, and the final book in the series comes out next week, and that's Stella and Roger Are on the Move. So
November 11th?
November 11th.
Okay.
Yes, so check it out at your local bookstores and libraries, but it's really exciting, and it feels like a full circle.
And what kind of messages are you conveying in these stories that really connect with kids? And I'm going to fix this on your microphone right there. Perfect.
Thank you. You know, these stories are universal. The character Stella, she is my heart. And she is beautiful, but she's a character who happens to be black. Stella is somebody who wants to stay up all night, just like all kids. Stella is somebody who wants to be older because the older kids get to do all the fun things, just like all the kids. That is universal regardless of race or ethnicity. And in the latest book, Stella and Roger find out they have to move. So they live in Chicago, they love Chicago, there's lots of shout outs to Chicago in the story, and they find out they have to move, and they're devastated because they think that home is what they've always known. It's a place. And then they learn that actually there are a lot of things that make home. It's the memories, it's the smells, it's the people. So that's the message in the latest book.
So Stella, first of all, is so adorable on the book cover. And I only want to ask you this because I think about my childhood, and I'm sure we're probably not that far removed in age. And I remember, I want to say it was like the Babysitters Club, that was huge. And I never saw anyone that looked like me on a regular basis on book covers. That's kind of changed, you know, as of late. There's more representation. What do you make of that? You know, in the world of children's books now, you can go in a bookstore if you're Hispanic, if you're white, if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're, you know, if your hair is bald, if you know, maybe you have alopecia. There's something literally for everyone.
Yes, and thank God for that. Thank God for that. You're right. When we grew up, there weren't as many books with diverse representation in them, and if there were books, then oftentimes we were the sidekicks in stories versus the lead in stories. And you're right that there are more now than there were when we were growing up, but there's still work to do. Everybody deserves to see their reflection in a story.
True.
And everybody deserves that reflection in joy, in everyday experience. So while we have made progress, there's more work to do, and I'm just glad that I could be a part of it.
You're doing a great job at it.
You are doing a good job. You know, before we get to break real quick, have you had some great, you know, response from families who are buying the books off the shelves following the series?
I have, and you know, just the other day I got a DM message in my Instagram from a mother whose daughter had dressed up as Stella for Book Character Day
I love
at
that.
school, and it just warmed my heart. It warmed my heart that this little girl saw herself in this character. And I've gotten messages like that before. I've gotten pictures of children, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, not sure what their family orientation is, who see themselves in Stella or who see a friend in Stella, and to me that is why I did this work. That's why I did it.
We're about to go to break, but I have to ask you this. How old are your kids now?
They're now 9 and 11, so 9-year-old son Jackson and 11-year-old Stella. So Jackson is like, where's my book?
And I'm about to ask you about that. That was going to be my next question. All right, stay with us. Maybe you can go buy this book in the break, and we'll be right back.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to Chicago Now. If you're just joining us, we are talking to book author, children's book author, at least for now. Who knows? You may explore some other things. Clotilde Ewing, we are not related, but we might be. We'll find that out later. But I got to ask you, because you said your children are older. So does that mean the series will evolve? I know this is the last book in the series that comes out November 11th. So I know as an author, you probably already have another book in the can.
Right. I have another Jackson book in the can.
Okay.
Jackson, I have a 9-year-old son, Jackson, and an 11-year-old daughter, Stella, and let's just say Jackson is not as impressed at the moment. He's like, where's my book? Where's my book? I would like to one day move into middle grade, but I have to say I love this space too. There's something really special about reading a picture book to a group of kindergartners and first graders and just seeing the joy and the curiosity and the imagination. So maybe one day, but I like this spot.
Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek of what you're thinking for your Jackson book? Is it something similar to this? Is it a whole new kind of adventure that he's on?
Right, so the Jackson book, I've already sold it. Hopefully it'll be out in the next year and a half or so. And it's a book about identity. You know, we talked about children growing up, and sometimes, you know, who you are at 10 isn't who you were at 5. Who you are at 12 isn't who you were at 8. And that's okay, it's growth. But at the same time, sometimes kids feel like they have to stick in this mold and be who they were and like what they liked when they were younger. And it's about who you are at the core.
I love that, because I will say, as a mom of a now 3-year-old, and I always tell people, don't buy her gifts, buy her books, you know, for like birthdays and stuff like that. And when I go to the bookstore, I rarely see a lot of books for boys. There are a lot of books for girls, though. Like, girls are always on the front cover, cute hairdo and everything. There's not a lot of books for boys, so I think that's a good space. Okay, so we've seen like this world where a lot of these books and series have ended up on the big screen. We've seen them turn into either a YouTube series on Netflix, even in some cases movies. Is this something that you're exploring with your characters? Because I know Stella is so popular.
Yeah, you know what? It is on my vision board, so hopefully one day I can work to manifest that. I definitely do see this as a potential Disney show or show that's an animated version, just because she's a great character and Roger's a great sidekick, so I hope one day.
Well, since you said it in this camera, we've had a lot of people come on here.
Manifest their dreams.
This camera and manifest it into,
One day you will be able to watch a Stella series on TV.
There you go. That's all you need to say. And it's going to have
Jackson got to be on it too.
Oh, right. And Jackson.
And Jackson, of course. Yeah. You know, I think animation, you know, plays a big part, or illustration plays a big part of a book success. I mean, this is beautiful. I'm looking through some of the pages. They're so eye-catching. Lynn Gaines, she did a great job.
She did a phenomenal job. And, you know, there's so much I didn't know about the process when I started off writing. I just knew what I wanted to do and accomplish and bring into the world. I wrote the story, but then Lynn Gaines worked her magic and brought it to life. So she's the one who in book 1 decided that Stella was gonna have these beautiful afro puffs and that she was gonna wear a tutu and shorts and she was gonna wear athletic socks and, you know, red slippered shoes. And I am so grateful because I didn't know what Stella was going to look like until I saw her on the page, and that was all Lynn.
Is Stella a representation of your daughter at the time at all?
Well, so my daughter did wear 2 puffs at one time, and then she wore 1 puff, and now she's wearing the braids, and so she has moved on from the puffs. But I would say the personality of Stella is really a mix of both of my kids, both Stella and Jackson.
I love that. Okay, so with your new book, you said that there is a lot of Chicago in it.
Yes.
Why did you feel the need? Because your books do reach far and wide, beyond, you know, obviously Chicago, the Midwest. Why did you feel the need to pay Chicago like a homage to Chicago in a way?
Well, I'm born and raised in Cleveland, but Chicago is my second home, and I love Chicago. I love Chicago, and people who live in Chicago, they love hard on Chicago.
Yes.
And I will say that for me, it's the city that I met my husband. It's the city where my kids were born. It's the city that we've chosen to raise our family, and that's given us so much. And so I think it's great. And when I do go to other cities and read some of the stories, you know, in the second book, Stella and the Mystery of the Missing Tooth, Sue the dinosaur is in there. And people just can't believe that we've got a dinosaur named Sue. And in the latest book, we talk about the L and we talk about the dinosaurs. And so there's lots of shout outs. We talk about the bean, lots of shout outs to Chicago. So we'll appreciate it here in Chicago, but for people who don't know Chicago, hopefully when they come and visit, they'll recognize places.
I know a few people I need to buy this book for.
Well, this is the book that I was talking about.
Okay,
this is
that's a
yeah, because I remember this part. Hi, I'm Stella. I'm the fastest kid in the 1st grade. I am always the first person to wake up in the morning and the quickest to finish dessert. I hate moving slow, and I remember that. Because when my daughter, I said, hate, she was like, Mommy, don't say that out. And I was like, don't worry. She's not going to hate for long.
Exactly.
And then it moved on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it says, my mom says I shouldn't hate.
Yes. Yes. Is that intentional? You know, because I have noticed in this book in particular, there's a juxtaposition of I hate it, which is kind of a little harsher statement to, you know what, maybe I don't hate it, I just don't like it so much.
Right. Well, I will tell you, my kids have a really great radar for books that have a lesson. So they do early on in some of the books that are really really lesson-y. They'll say, is this one of those lesson books? So I knew that I needed to be softer with the lesson, but I also really wanted to honor a child and the fact that, you know, they're not quite where we are yet, and there are some things that they really don't like. So I tried to honor a child's voice, but also get a lesson in there in a way that wasn't too obvious.
You know what about little Roger? I see him, is he kind of more of like a follower, just following Stella around, or is he playing and speaking in the
He's speaking, so Roger is very real to Stella. Some people might call Roger an imaginary friend, but for people who've had those types of friends, don't call them imaginary. They are very real to them, so I wanted to honor that. Roger tends to be more dramatic, and he tends to be the worrier of the two. And so Stella, they play off of each other really well.
That's why I asked the question about the whole animated series, because in my mind I see it, right?
I see it too.
You can definitely see it. Okay, so all of your books are everywhere? Can people get these books every single?
They are where books are sold. So independent bookstores, libraries, you can buy them online. For me, I really hope that people can support an independent bookstore because they are our neighbors, they are small business owners, they are the ones who know your kids. And there's so many phenomenal bookstores here in Chicago.
I have to ask you, when it comes to writing children's books, right? I'm just trying to get into your mind a little bit here. Where do you draw that? Like, are you literally drawing that inspiration from your kids? Because in some ways, you kind of got to think like a kid a little bit.
Yes. Well, I mean, you remember that show, Kids Say the Darndest Things.
Yes.
And anybody who has children, they know the kid logic. It's there. Sometimes I'm not totally tracking it, but it's there. And I will say that my kids have inspired each of these stories, you know, the Stella and Roger on the move, we are not moving. We are staying here in Chicago, so that one was all me. But for the first 3 stories, they were inspired by things that my kids said, or conversations that we've had, or little seeds that they dropped, and I went from there.
I love it.
Did you
and it's very
ever
comfortable to hold.
starting the series that it'd be this successful and that many people would gravitate to your books?
It has far surpassed my wildest dreams.
It's amazing.
That said, I knew that there was a market for these types of books because I am a consumer. I knew what kinds of books I wanted to add to my own children's libraries. And so I knew that there was a market. And I knew that the market was both for families that look like mine and families that look nothing like mine. And so I hope that I am also encouraging additional authors behind me and publishers to sign on to books like this.
When did you realize, like, oh, I really have something here?
Yeah.
This is like a big deal. This is bigger than what I even imagined it would be.
You know what? When I got my first DM message from a woman in Australia who had a little girl who was not black, who was dressed up as Stella, and who she tried to get the puffs quite right. And she's like, I couldn't get the hair. But she sent me a picture, and that is probably that moment. I would say the moment that warms my heart, my daughter did the first introduction for me when I read the story to her class, and I was super nervous because kids are very honest, and you never know what your own child is going to say. But she introduced me, and she said, this is my mom, Clotilde Ewing. She is an author and a mother to me. And that just almost brought tears to my eyes because I am an author because I am a mother to her. And for her to see me in that role was very
So it basically sounds like to me, if you weren't a mom, you're not sure that you would have been writing.
For
probably
sure.
wouldn't have even had
For
inspiration to write these
It
books.
is because I have children, and it's because of what I saw missing, and because of what I know my own children deserve to see, and all kids.
Yeah, you're getting a little teary-eyed, so we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop.
I even am. So we already went through, we know where to find your book.
Yes.
Can we follow you on social media? Are you active on there, sharing some little tidbits about how people are reacting?
I try on Instagram. You know, I will say I don't always have the time, but it is fun.
You're busy.
It is fun. I do my best.
All
So
right.
yes, please follow on Instagram.
Well, we can't wait to see the animated series coming.
We can. We're going to have you right back in that.
Oh, I'd love that.
That's
Okay.
going to be really
It
good.
will happen.
All right, cousin. I'm just kidding. We don't know.
Okay, we're talking about holiday shopping right when we come back. Welcome back to Chicago Now. Man, what great interviews we've had so far. And that's just one thing that's, of course, going to brighten up your bookshelf, but also just hearing the background story. It's great to know how it all came to be.
And it's great to know that it comes out November 11th, because as the holidays approach, you may be thinking about what is the best thing to buy someone. And a book is one of those things that, in my opinion, it just keeps giving, right? Because kids, people, sometimes they don't read books just one time. They keep reading them over and over
Very
again.
true, especially if it's something so special as that one is. The Deloitte 2025 Chicago Holiday Retail Survey shows local shoppers plan on spending less this holiday season. So we're bringing in Matt Adams, principal at Deloitte, specializing in retail, to tell us more about the findings. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Okay, so what are we finding this year compared to years past? Obviously, spending less, as we pointed to.
Yeah, the way that I would summarize it is that spirits may be bright, but wallets are tight this year. That consumers are looking to figure out how to extend their dollar as far as they can, but they're expecting to spend less this year than they have in previous years by about 11% here in Chicago, down to $1,553, which is obviously still a substantial amount. But it is really weighing on consumers. The state of the economy, 79% of consumers expect higher prices this year, and 60%, more than 60% actually, are expecting the economy to be tighter. So, and may even anticipate a recession. So consumers are really looking for those values and deals this year.
Matt, I don't know if this is an easy question to answer or not, but because of the government shutdown, people are being furloughed, laid off, etc. When it comes to the deals that are out there, do you think we'll see more deals this time around than we have in years past? Because these businesses have to know that people don't have the money like they used to, but if you want them to spend, you got to give them a deal.
I can tell you our survey really focused on what consumers were talking about, but I can tell you, working with retailers, they are very focused on the consumer and recognizing that it's a tough year. So they're thinking very strategically about the deals that they offer, when they offer them, and more than that, it's not just about the prices. That consumers have said very clearly through other research that we've done that they're also looking for value. And value is more than just the cost you pay. It is the trust that you have in a retailer, their experience you create, and the services that you put around the purchases that the consumers make. So retailers are really recognizing that this is not a year like we've had in the last couple, and thinking creatively about how to extend the dollar and make consumers feel good about the purchases that they're making.
That is so true, Tia, because I did just see a commercial, I think it was last night, where they're doing Black Friday like the whole weekend before instead of Black Friday. Anyway, during these trends, and I'm sorry if you kind of already answered this, I had some audio issues, but during these times, what are the gift-giving trends? Are they reaching for gift cards more? Are they reaching for, I don't know, something that they can make at home, a DIY?
Yeah, absolutely. Gift cards are actually up and up the most by any category that we asked about this year, about 9% relative to last year. So that, I think, is a reflection of both that tight economy and wanting to give the gift receiver some flexibility. Other areas that are up in terms of spending are food and beverage, home and kitchen, and while clothing and apparel is still the top category in terms of where consumers are spending, it's down the most year over year, about 12% relative to last year. So consumers are looking for, the gift cards and things that lend itself to experience, which again continues to increase year over year. It's a trend that we've seen really amp up the last several years. And this year is no different, that consumers are really looking to spend on experiences, entertaining at home, giving their recipients, their friends, their family, restaurant gift cards, event tickets, things like that.
Makes sense, because sometimes, a family of 4, family of 5, that gift card can really step up and help you in a huge way.
Otherwise get.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, stay with us. We do have to take a quick break. Stay with us. We're going to talk much more about this right after this short break. We'll see you on the other side.
If you
we're talking about a Chicago holiday retail survey that was done, looking at how shoppers are going to spend their money in 2025. Matt Adams has been joining us from Deloitte. Matt, I want to ask you, you know, AI plays a huge part of our everyday lives now. How are people using AI for their holiday shopping?
Yeah, one of the things that consumers have said in our survey is that they're really looking for convenience, that they've experienced frustration in trying to find the right gift, particularly for people they don't know as well, thinking about the gift for somebody who has everything. And so that's an area where AI has really become a useful resource that they can engage with a chatbot, a generative AI agent, for inspiration, for ideas about what people will really enjoy, for ideas about how to create their shopping list for the year, to explore where there are deals and find the best deals. So they're really looking at it for this combination of inspiration to satisfy or reduce some of those frustrations of the holiday season, as well as to find the best solution in their gift giving.
I'm telling you, you can use AI for everything.
Yes,
it is getting crazy. Oh my gosh. I guess I need to have it up at all times. When are Chicago shoppers maybe shopping this year? Are they waiting for that big deal? Are they doing it last minute like we all typically do? Or are they doing it super early and just making sure they're putting a lot of thought into what they're getting?
It's interesting. We continue to see, it's another trend we see year over year, that consumers are shopping a little bit earlier, extending the holiday shopping season. And I think that, well, the data shows really that the October deal days that you see at the beginning of that month are part of the explanation that consumers really want to take advantage of those opportunities when they arise. But a lot of the shopping is really going to happen at the end of November and the beginning of December, when you've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Those are the two big opportunities where consumers have said they're really going to focus their attention to try to, again, to get the good deals. But it really gives people an opportunity to really focus on their shopping. And so about 50% of the budget that people expect to spend is around that time frame, the late November, early December.
I hate to be a party people, but I was thinking of, no, really, because I was thinking about this and I was thinking, you know, it's really tough times, and I think this is a time, at least in my household, to have real conversations with our children about, you know, not expecting so much. Maybe
you're not going to
instead of you getting, you know, all these gifts, you give some gifts to other people instead of you wanting, you know, so much every single year. But I must ask you, what are some of the most popular gifts that people are seeking out right now?
Yeah, we didn't really ask about specific things, but we did talk about the categories that people are focused on. And it's toys and hobbies and things like that for the children that you just mentioned, you know, continues to actually stay flat. And that tells me in a time when budgets are tight and consumers are seeking value, they still want to make sure that they're prioritizing their families, their children, and giving them a great experience. And then I'll go back to the entertainment, the shopping for home, and how important a tradition for families entertaining is. And I'll tell you, just from my personal experience, I have 2 children as well, that, you know, making it a family atmosphere and bringing our friends and family together is something that I think a lot of consumers are really prioritizing.
Yeah,
it's
joy.
So hard.
Sounds like they're prioritizing joy.
It is, yeah. And it's hard times, like you said, and we know that so much lays sometimes on Christmas and the holidays because it's part of your childhood, right?
It is.
Nostalgia, you think back to the good old days too. I also have to ask, does a survey show, are any consumers maybe going to their local shops and supporting them rather than maybe the big retailers?
It is a trend that we've seen in general. We didn't focus on that for the survey this year, but thinking about the work that I do with other retailers, that local aspect continues to be important. And it's part of consumers really focusing on the values that the retailers have and shopping and considering values and local support of local organizations and smaller businesses is something that we've seen continue to grow over the last several years as a focal point for shoppers. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, were there any shockers that you saw in this survey this year, maybe compared to years past?
The biggest thing, I don't know how shocking it is, but the value-seeking orientation for consumers, and what's really emerged that I think is important is it's not just it's not about price. It's about value and trust and making sure that you're extending your dollar as far as possible, but it's regardless of income level. And that's really something that continues to kind of really land on me is consumers across the board. In other research we've done, they say that they're spending more and getting less. And so that value-seeking behaviors, things like trading down in terms of, maybe not necessarily going to a preferred retailer, but one that's more affordable, looking for deal opportunities, but also that focus on value, so it's not just about price. Those behaviors aren't tied to any particular income level. It's really pervasive across kind of the entire consumer base.
Interesting. Well, Matt Adams, thank you as always for joining us with Deloitte. We will see you next holiday season, maybe as we get closer. I don't know. But either way, we appreciate your time.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's going to be really tough for a lot of families this holiday. And, I know we like talking about that stuff, but the reality is I saw somewhere here where it says the average projected holiday spending is $1,553. That's down 11% from last year. And my first thought is, for a lot of families, when you look at, the food pantry lines and all of that, that's not attainable. No. And so what does Christmas look like, for a lot of these families? And I think the overall arching, what's I hear loudly is joy. Like, that's what you should try to get out of this holiday season. Maybe it's not going to buy, something expensive, but being together and really realizing that sometimes the present is someone's presence.
Yeah, right? Oh, that's such a strong message. Yeah, maybe go Christmas caroling instead. Decorate someone's yard.
If you can't afford it,
stuff that you have.
Don't max out your cards over this.
No, you really don't have to, because that's at the end of the day what you're going to remember more than material things. Agreed. Also, but if you are shopping, I'm going to take a play out of Natalie's book. She did most of her shopping during Amazon Prime Day. Oh. So she has things already on lockdown. Of course, there's going to be what Santa brings for Olive as well.
Can I give you a quick trick that I do? So my daughter, her birthday's kind of close to Christmas, right? Because it's in late October. So there's some toys that I noticed that she hasn't opened. They're going to get wrapped up.
Oh,
right under the
okay, well, there's another mom hack.
Telling you right now.
Like we said, maybe an experience is a good Christmas gift.
Yeah. I'm doing it. I'm sorry.
I know. An experience is a good Christmas gift. Well, the Scottish comedian, Kevin Bridges, that is a horrible Scottish accent, is coming to Chicago. Hey, we're going to have him on right after this break. Wrap?
I'm on vacation.
It's quite simple. Welcome to Odeon. Please state which branch of Odeon you would like to purchase tickets for. Now that's quite straightforward, because there's one word in the English dictionary designed to be said in a Glasgow accent, and it's Glasgow. And then I began to encounter some difficulties. Okay, please speak slowly and clearly, stating the full name of the movie you would like to purchase tickets for. If you'd like to hear a full list of movies again, please press 1. The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh. Okay, Bonnie Scott is joining us this morning. Kevin Bridges is making a stop in Chicago for his comedy tour on November 9th, performing at the Riviera Theater. He's joining us over Zoom with a preview of the show. We're both thinking, is that accent real? I mean, it has to be.
Is it a real accent? Well, I don't know,
There it
man.
is.
I'm actually having to practice my American accent to be understood over here. So sometimes, just for day-to-day life, it's a bit more straightforward if I just put on an American accent. Like in this hotel, I had to get myself an iron and an ironing board. Now, if I phone reception and say, "Hi, can I have an iron and an ironing board?" they just think somebody's having a bad time.
I love it.
But if I phone up and say, "Hey man, can I get an iron and an ironing board?" "Oh, sure, I'll bring it right up." So it's just simpler if the whole world just sounds like you people. So
You know what? You stick with the Scottish accent. I'll stick with the American accent because I was trying to mimic it earlier and it just didn't work out.
Can you do a Scottish? Let me hear you try it.
Let me hear you try it.
Let me hear it. Try it.
Let me hear you try it.
All I have is from Outlander. That's about it. That's where I learned my Scottish
Let me
accent.
hear you try it.
Hey, that was good.
Was that bad?
This is atrocious. I think we don't have as many Scottish people who are globally famous as we should. So people are a lot more used to the English accent or the Irish accent. So it's only really Outlander, James McAvoy. We need more globally famous Scots to get the accent more kind of out there.
I love the accent. I absolutely do. What can people expect when they come to your show on November 9th here in Chicago?
They should probably concentrate a lot, I would say, because of the accent. I'm finding that here. That once the first few minutes, the Americans in the audience, they really need to focus. Like I think my accent has got a similar effect on American brains as like Adderall. Like it really makes you zone in and lock in. So we'll address that in the first few minutes, but then people tend to kind of tune in, and it's quite an interesting time to be in your country. It's a bit crazy, even by your own high standards of crazy. This is a particularly mad time as an outsider to be in the US, so there will be some social commentary.
Yeah,
you know,
it is. I agree.
You've been doing stand-up for so long.
20
for 20 years. You've been selling out theaters all over the world, but this is actually going to be your first tour in the U.S. Why did it take this long to come to the States?
Because you don't understand a word that I'm saying.
We need subtitles. How about that? Like during your show, can you just have subtitles going on? Just kidding. We can
that is
you.
probably why. Right, so I've done stand-up for over 20 years, and I think because of social media and clips of my stand-up over the years are now accessible to the whole globe, and thankfully that has helped me discover that I have got fans in America. So they're coming along, and the clips that they have watched are subtitled, as you say, but live, you're on your own. But 21 years, and this is the first time I've toured the US, and I'm enjoying it. The audiences are so enthusiastic, and I think they quite enjoy hearing an outsider's take on their country.
I must ask you, being that you've been doing comedy so long, and you mentioned there's not a lot of famous Scottish comedians, who was your inspiration to even do comedy?
Well, Billy Connolly, he's my favourite. He was, I think every comic that made a living from standing there and just talking with no gimmicks and sort of, they owe him. He was the trailblazer for that whole style of comedy. I loved Connolly. Every Scottish comedian especially has got to hand him a massive amount of credit. And Richard Pryor, obviously, legend. I think what I liked about Connolly and Pryor is they really pushed boundaries at a time when there were a lot of boundaries to push. So they were very honest and unashamedly themselves. So they're my favourite too of all time.
You know what, Kevin? There's a lot going on in the U.S. right now, so I have a feeling you're going to have a lot of material. We're going to hear all about it. We're just going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, and you at home, don't go anywhere as well.
We'll be right back.
It's that.
welcome back Kevin Bridges, who's going to be at the Riviera Theater November 9th. I asked you, or I told you, hey, look, there's a lot going on in the U.S. right now.
We're
You probably have a lot of material. Is there something that you're going to kind of grab some inspiration from to use on stage this week, next week?
Oh, of course. Like I was in Portland, and there was like people in inflatable animal costumes protesting against the ICE agents. And then one of the ICE agents pepper sprayed a panda. So, I mean, I don't know how I can make that any funnier. Like the fact that there's a frog get tasered, a panda get pepper sprayed. Like, get back, you bamboo eating, whatever. So to me, that is hilarious. And it's kind of it writes itself when stuff like that is happening. So it's kind of unavoidable. There's a lot of elephants in the room in American kind of culture and politics at the minute.
Very true.
And I hope to address every one of them.
What do you make of the U.S. so far?
The people are like really friendly, like very, very much enjoying that. And then it does seem a bit tense, to be honest. Like a lot of disinformation. I'm talking about that. We don't really use that expression in Scotland, spreading disinformation. It's just called talking nonsense. But I'll address that. Obviously, Fox News yourselves feature in the show. And Donald's funny. I mean, but I need to be careful. I don't want to end up in a detention centre.
Yeah, watch yourself, Kevin.
Oh, I know. But I will go there live. You can come and see the show, and I can be a bit less restrained than live on Fox. That is a very old clip. Where did you find? I must be 20.
I was going to say
I was thinking the same thing.
That must have been the start of your career. You're just as handsome. You're still a Bonnie Scott.
But it was a baby face. Definitely a baby face.
A little bit more of a baby face.
I know. I don't know what happened. I'm turning 39 next week, and Americans don't believe that. They genuinely think I'm like 50. So this is a Scottish 39. Like when I was in LA, there's people kind of going, hey man, did we go to junior high? Like 60-year-olds thinking I'm the same age as them. So I think in California, they look at me like, oh man, that's what we're going to look like when we die. So this is a Scottish 39-year-old. I need to get a Kiehl's, I need to get a skincare routine going on. I'm learning.
Oh, well, we can't wait to have you in Chicago.
Yeah, November 9th, Riviera Theater.
Very excited.
Go get
I love
your
Chicago.
tickets.
All right, well, we can't wait.
This is the third time I've been over, so I feel as if the pressure's off. I've done the touristy stuff, and I can just actually enjoy the city without having to go on buses and skyscrapers and stuff. So
get yourself some deep dish pizza while you're here.
Well,
Kevin
I've done
Bridges.
that twice. I'm going to try the tavern. The tavern style, somebody told me, is better. So I feel as if on the third visit I can sack the deep dish and go for the tavern style.
It's all
Thank
good.
you for being with us.
Thank you. See you guys tomorrow.
Nice to meet
40%.